Phone rings at 9:47 on a Tuesday night, and you know before you even look at the screen that it's Jordan, because Jordan only calls this late when something's wrong or something's enormous, and you can usually tell which within the first 4 words. Hey, you got a sec? That's the wrong something voice. The enormous something voice is louder, faster, already laughing before the news lands. This one is quiet. You sit down on the edge of the couch before you even say yes. You've known Jordan since you were 19, working the same overnight shift at a warehouse outside Phoenix, splitting a single bag of gas station sunflower seeds because neither of you had eaten since noon. Jordan was the one who taught you how to make a forklift turn feel less like a controlled fall. You were the one who drove Jordan to the ER at 3 a.m. when an allergic reaction turned a birthday dinner into a hospital waiting room. 16 years of that. Best man at each other's weddings. The kind of friendship that doesn't need maintenance because it was built correctly the first time. Jordan tells you about the restaurant. Not a new idea, you've heard about this place for 2 years. Watched Jordan save toward it in increments so small they were almost invisible. Watched the business plan get rewritten 4 separate times until it stopped reading like a dream and started reading like a spreadsheet. The lease on a corner spot finally opened up. Good foot traffic, a neighborhood that's been gentrifying just enough to support higher ticket prices without pricing out the regulars who will keep the place full on a Tuesday. Jordan has run the numbers 11 different ways. They work. What doesn't work is the gap between what the bank will lend and what the build-out actually costs once you account for the kitchen equipment, the permits, the 8 weeks of payroll before the doors even open. The gap is $100,000. You know this number is nothing to you. That's the strange, private fact sitting underneath the entire conversation, the thing you don't say out loud. 6 years ago, you sold a small logistics software tool you'd built on nights and weekends to a company that needed exactly what you'd built and didn't want to build it themselves. It wasn't a headline number. Nobody wrote an article about it. But it was enough that, combined with what's compounded since, $100,000 wouldn't move your life in any direction you could feel. You could transfer it from your phone right now, sitting on this couch, in less time than it took Jordan to explain the lease terms. You almost do. Your thumb is actually on the banking app. You've opened it without quite deciding to, the way your hand reaches for a doorknob in your own house without your eyes needing to find it first. You're 3 taps away from solving this. Jordan is still talking, explaining the contingency plan in case the full amount doesn't come together. A smaller build-out, a phased opening, a version of the dream that's 60% of the dream, and you can hear in Jordan's voice the specific exhaustion of someone who has already mentally prepared to accept less. You don't open the transfer screen, you close the app. This is the part that doesn't get talked about because the story everyone wants is the one where you save the day, where the friend who made it good reaches back and pulls the other one up. Cinematic, simple, a single generous motion that fixes everything. That's not what this is. What this is a much smaller, much quieter moment. You sitting on a couch at 9:51 p.m. choosing not to do the easy thing because you've learned something in 6 years that you didn't know when you had nothing. That money handed to someone in the middle of a decision doesn't just solve the decision. It becomes part of the decision. It changes the shape of what they're building and who they're building it with. You ask Jordan a question instead. Not how much do you need, because you already know that number. You ask, what happens if the build-out runs over? What's the actual contingency, not the optimistic one? There's a pause on the line. Jordan hasn't fully modeled that. You ask about the lease, is there a personal guarantee attached? And if the restaurant underperforms in year 1, what does that guarantee actually expose? Another pause, longer this time. Jordan admits not having read that section as closely as the rest. You say you'll come by this weekend and look at the numbers together. Not write a check. Look at the numbers. Jordan sounds almost disappointed, the way someone sounds when they've spent an hour working up the nerve to ask for something and the answer comes back as a homework assignment instead. You feel that disappointment land in your own chest, a small specific ache, because you know exactly how easy this would be for you and exactly how hard it is for Jordan to have asked at all. You let the ache sit there. You don't fix it with the transfer app. Saturday morning, you're at Jordan's kitchen table with 2 laptops, a legal pad, and coffee that's gone cold twice because neither of you remembers to drink it. The lease document is 41 pages. You find the personal guarantee clause on page 17, buried in language that's technically clear and practically invisible unless you're looking for it. The kind of clause that exists specifically because most people signing leases don't read page 17. It says that if the business defaults, Jordan is personally liable for the remaining lease term, not just the deposit, the entire remaining balance, up to 4 years of rent on a space that would, by then, be sitting empty. Jordan goes quiet reading it twice. I didn't know that was in there. Most people don't, you say, because most people don't get a lawyer to review a 41-page lease for a restaurant that might not exist yet. It costs $800 they don't think they have, so they skip it, and they find out what page 17 says the hard way, 18 months in, when a slow winter turns into a missed payment. You spend 3 hours going through line items together. You find $1,400 a month in equipment leasing costs that could be renegotiated or replaced with used equipment at a third of the price, since Jordan's concept doesn't need brand new everything, just functional everything. You find that the insurance quote Jordan got is almost double what a comparable restaurant 2 blocks over is paying, because Jordan got 1 quote and assumed that was the market rate instead of getting 3. You ask about the payroll model for the first 8 weeks, and Jordan admits the number was a guess, rounded up because guessing felt safer than calculating, except the guess turned out to be about $9,000 higher than it needed to be once you actually map out a realistic staffing ramp, instead of staffing for a grand opening crowd that won't exist on a random Tuesday in March. By the time you leave, you haven't given Jordan $1. What you've given Jordan is roughly $23,000 worth of corrections to a plan that was already mostly right, plus a flagged liability clause that could have ended the entire venture 18 months from now in a way neither of you would have seen coming until it was already happening. You come back the next Saturday, and the one after that. This isn't a single dramatic gesture, it's 4 consecutive weekends of unglamorous arithmetic, the kind that doesn't make for a good toast at a wedding but makes for a business that survives its first winter. On the 3rd Saturday, you walk Jordan through an SBA loan program neither of you knew existed, until you spent 40 minutes searching for exactly this kind of gap financing situation, a program built for precisely this size of shortfall, with terms that don't require Jordan to hand over equity or sign away 4 years of personal liability to a friend instead of a bank. On the 4th Saturday, Jordan calls a contact from culinary school who runs a similar-sized restaurant 2 states over, and gets real numbers on what a comparable build-out actually costs when you're not paying premium rates for premium-branded everything. The gap closes, not because of your $100,000, because of a renegotiated equipment lease, a corrected insurance quote, a flagged contract clause that got renegotiated before signing instead of discovered after, a realistic payroll model, and an SBA loan for the remaining $34,000 that Jordan qualifies for on Jordan's own credit, on Jordan's own name, with Jordan's own signature as the only one on the line. Jordan signs the final lease on a Thursday in April, calls you that night, voice doing the thing voices do when something that's been worked for finally actually arrives, not quite steady, a little too fast, a laugh in the wrong place. I couldn't have done this without you. You say something small in response, something about how Jordan did all the actual work, which is true and also not the whole truth, and you both let it sit there without examining it too closely, the way old friends let certain things sit. You never tell Jordan what you could have wired that first Tuesday night. Not because you're hiding something shameful, because telling would change what this story is. If Jordan knew there'd been $100,000 sitting 3 taps away the whole time, every weekend at that kitchen table would be recolored retroactively. It would stop being 2 friends solving a problem together and start being a wealthy friend graciously declining to write a check, which is a worse story, a smaller story, even though the actions inside it would be identical. You understand something most people don't get the chance to learn directly. The value of help isn't measured only by what it costs the person giving it. Sometimes the more expensive gift is the one that costs you nothing financially and everything in restraint. This isn't the first time you've sat with this particular weight. 2 years ago, a cousin you drifted from reconnected out of nowhere with a business idea that needed just a little seed money to get going, the kind of pitch that arrives with more enthusiasm than structure, no real plan behind the ask, just hope wearing the clothes of a business proposal. You said no to that one cleanly, almost immediately, because there was nothing underneath it to build on, no spreadsheet, no lease, no 11 reworked versions of a plan, just a feeling that money would fix a problem that wasn't actually a money problem yet. You haven't heard from that cousin since. That's its own kind of cost, the kind nobody warns you about when they tell you that money changes things. It's not that people become different. It's that money reveals which relationships were built to survive being tested and which ones weren't. Jordan's restaurant opens on a Friday in June. You go on opening night, sit in a corner booth, order off a menu that's still got a few formatting errors in the second printing, and watch Jordan move through the dining room the way someone moves when they're standing inside something they built with their own hands, fielding compliments with the specific awkwardness of a person who isn't used to being complimented yet. Nobody in that room knows what the Tuesday night phone call almost was. Nobody needs to. The restaurant is full. The kitchen is loud. The thing is real, and it's real because Jordan built it with corrections, with 4 Saturdays of arithmetic, with an SBA loan that has Jordan's name on it and nobody else's. You think about this a lot, the asymmetry of it, how the easiest version of help is so often the wrong one, how the instinct to remove someone's struggle entirely can quietly remove their ownership of the outcome along with it. You've watched it happen to other people, money handed across a relationship like a shortcut, and you've watched what comes after. The resentment that shows up 18 months later when the business struggles anyway because the underlying skills were never actually built, just bypassed. The awkwardness of a friendship that now has a debt sitting inside it, spoken or not. The slow recalibration of how two people see each other once one of them is, structurally, the other's benefactor. You didn't want that for you and Jordan. 16 years doesn't survive that kind of recalibration easily, and you weren't willing to test it over a number that, frankly, you wouldn't have felt losing. That's the strange math of it. The easy version would have cost you nothing and possibly cost you everything that actually mattered. The hard version cost you 4 Saturday mornings and gave you nothing back except watching someone you love succeed on terms that are entirely theirs. Late that night, after the restaurant closes for the evening and the staff finishes the first official cleanup of dishes that will, over the coming months, become routine instead of novel, Jordan walks you to your car in the parking lot behind the building. It's quiet out there, the kind of quiet that follows a loud night. Jordan says almost offhand, "You never told me how close you actually came to just sending it. That first call." You ask what Jordan means. "I don't know." Something in your voice that night, like you were holding something back. You don't confirm it, you don't deny it either. You just say it worked out the way it needed to, and Jordan, who knows you well enough not to push past a door you're gently keeping shut, lets it go. You drive home with the windows down, the city quiet at this hour, the kind of ordinary Friday night that doesn't announce itself as meaningful while it's happening. You think about the gap between what you could have done and what you actually did, and you understand more clearly than you have in a while that the architecture of real help rarely looks like the gesture people imagine when they picture generosity. It looks like 4 Saturdays. It looks like page 17. It looks like a hard no to a cousin and a harder yes, slower, more demanding, to a friend who earned every dollar of that gap closing on terms that are now permanently, unmistakably theirs. You never wired the $100,000. You gave something that doesn't show up on a bank statement and never will, and somehow that ends up being the thing that lasts.